with a high school friend of mine, his name is Stan, that Trump would win the presidency. Bottle of wine. I guess I need to pay up that bet because President Biden is there, isn't he? He is the one, and we have to come to grips with that. We want to hear it from you, General Flynn.
It depends on you define. Yeah, well, I mean, here I would say, I'd say hold that bottle of wine. Hold on to that bottle of wine. I would not concede that bottle of wine. That's Mike Flynn.
Okay.
I would not concede that bottle of wine. But I'll leave it at that.
Hi, Patriots. Welcome to We the People News. So, yes, I think that Doug Billings should keep that bottle of wine. Yes, Donald Trump, President Trump, is still our president. That is one thing I'm sure of. And this is a video from an interview done with Scott McKay from The Tipping Point, and it's really great because it goes into some details about the Insurrection Act and some of the legal details about the corporation and how it all kind of falls into place probably around the beginning of March. Interesting thing about the beginning of March, the Trump Hotel is booked and its rooms are like quadruple the price, like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a room, right at that period of time. So something's going down in that time frame in March in the District of Columbia. My guess it's going to be our president swearing in as the president of the Republic of the United States. So he destroyed the corporation. He once found out about, for sure about the foreign, and they had the evidence of the foreign tampering with the election, the Chinese. They, went ahead, showed that to the Pentagon, and that's when he declared the Insurrection Act. And as soon as Mr. Biden was sworn in 17 minutes prior to when he's supposed to be, aka 7. Whenever you see the 17, by the way, that says Patriots are in control. That's a secret message. He, at 12 o'clock on the January 20th, 12 p.m., that is when the military officially took over this country, and we're under martial law. And you're not hearing a lot about it because, as Flynn says, don't give away what you're going to do to the enemy. So hold the line and have faith, and, keep looking back at these videos to give yourself some comfort, because I know it's hard to get through these days. But it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I promise it's going to be okay. I've looked at the evidence. That's my opinion. So hold tight. Here we go with Scott McKay.
First off, it's just really sad to see that there are so many people that have lost faith, and as believers, Sheila and Scott, we don't go by what we see, we go by faith and what we know in the Word of God, because there have been promises made and promises kept, not only by our Father in heaven, okay, but by President Trump. And he's made promises and through codes throughout the board. So let's just right off the shoot here, 1871. Are we in a constitution, or are we not in a constitution, guys? I'll go with Scott first, or Republic. Where are we?
Well, what I heard was, most, I guess people are starting to learn what the 1871 Organic Act did in forming the U.S. Corp. And then, of course, it moved into 1911, 1213, we get the Federal Reserve, and then into the 44 Bretton Woods Act when they quit claimed the U.S. corporation to the IMF, which means now the foreign powers controlled us since then. To 99, final bankruptcy. Russell J. Gould captures the Title IV flag during the 18-day period, so the British Crown didn't get control of us again, and the cabal kept on moving. They just kept on moving. They don't even have the power. They did it anyways. Well, finally, Trump took the power from them, because this is information that I got from an extremely high-level source to my contact to me. And all I can tell you about the extremely high-level source is this person has been involved in changing world events over the last decade. And so their information is that the U.S. corporation actually and finally dissolved at 12:01 a.m. on Inauguration Day. What I found interesting about this information that I had never heard before. So now, as it exists right now, we know that Biden is a president of nothing because the U.S. corporation is defunct and dissolved. And anything that they're putting on right now, they're staging. As you can tell, the Oval Office, they're staging it. I said that Biden would never get near the White House. And of course, we thought, okay, he's actually going to set foot in there for a day or 2 days or a week. So I'm wrong. Well, it appears that I'm not wrong. As I've been saying for 6 months, he'll never set foot in the White House because he's not in there. They're filming in a fake set. But what I found very intriguing was that where we are in the it's like called the 1776 Constitution, because people understand that we are back to the original 13 colonies, which are the 13 states. And the other states are now actually not part of the United States. Over the coming months, the governors are going to be shown where they are, and they're going to have to basically go through the process, probably to undo the same thing, because all these states formed their own corporations. 68, the IMF representatives went to the governor's convention, approached all of them, said, look, you are conducting state business with a foreign currency, which is a US dollar. And if your people find out what you're doing with their money, they're going to kill you. So what you need to do is form a corporation. And that's what they did one by one. By 72, they all had corporations that were ruling, not governing, ruling over their states. So my belief is that that's how they're going to undo this, because these states are going to have to go through the process to rejoin the Union, the United States. And why would they? Because they're going to have no protection, because the military now is loyal to the constitutional republic. And if they want those protections and commerce, they're going to do what they got to do. I found that very intriguing information. I don't know, I don't know, the steps that are taking place right now for all that. But I think Trump spoke about it. What we accomplished was a miracle. I said the only thing that could accomplish a miracle in you can't clean the swamp. You can't even gut it from the ground up, which is what they've been doing. You can only burn it down. You got to dismantle it. I also heard that it's going to be dismantled. The entire capital of Washington, D.C. is going to be dismantled, and the capital of the restored republic is going to be somewhere else. And they have to get rid of it because the entire structure of all of it is built on satanic symbolism, including the Washington Monument, which is a phallic symbol. The configuration of the owl on the streets and everything has to be dismantled. So that brings us to the states. Now that we know the deep state or the cabal controls the legislatures right down to the mayors, how do you gut or burn that swamp out? Same thing. Based on this is what I understand to be, if these states, if this is true, again, I can't confirm any of this. It's only what I've heard. It's secondhand information, but it's plausible to me. You can take down Washington, D.C. with Nassara law, because Nassara law disbands Congress, gets rid of the vice president, gets rid of the president. They insert new temporary placeholders while the military runs the country until we have an election up to 120 days later. And the people that were once in the swamp, they can't come back. That's clean. But what about the states? You still got to clean the states because the criminals are everywhere. So now I thought, wow, that is the brilliance of this is true. Then this is how they burned the swamp down into a pile of smoking rubble in every single state. Because once they have to restructure all these legislative representatives, just like the U.S. Corp, were seated in there. The presidency, vice presidency were seated in the United States corporation, not the United States government. All the state governments, all their people, all their elected officials, and institutional departments are all inside of a corporation. Once that corporation's dead, they have to create new institutions inside the state governments. And to me, I thought, what a brilliant hay scythe to take to the whole field in one swipe, wipe it out. So that's what I'm hearing. I'm hoping all that's true, because to me, I'm telling you, that has to be the most brilliant. I mean, talk about putting him in a kill box. There's nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go.
Exactly. It is absolutely brilliant. And I did hear that on November 2nd, that President Trump did put in effect Nassara. And as you said, Scott, 120 days, where does that bring us? Doesn't that bring us to around March 4th, maybe?
I looked at those, let's see, November, December, January, February, March. You're absolutely right, because if it was done somewhere in November, if it was a Nassar enactment, and I don't know, if it works out to be exactly 120 days, maybe with the short February month, maybe it does, but it's going to be darn close. I hope it's all that, because we know the IRS goes away. We know all debt gets wiped out globally because the Rothschild Criminal Central, human trafficking bank and murder machine that's stolen all of our money, they're dead, right? And we
Yeah.
get everything they've got, everything back distributed. So I'm hoping it's a combination of all of it.
Yeah, that's so exciting. I'll tell you what, and I pray that all the information that we're going to give you today is just going to really encourage you. Okay, so with that, Sheila, same thing. Constitution. From your historic background, what do you say in regards to all this?
This is such a miracle, because everything Scott just shared with you is absolutely true. And I only know I grew up in Nebraska, and then the other years have all been in California. And I know both of those constitutions, and they didn't even release a constitution that described how they're operating. So I've seen the 1850 California, which was before 1871, and I've seen the 1867 Nebraska, and you can't have lotteries. You have to live in your district. Now they don't. You cannot change district according to, and they do. The things that they had to own a business, own land. They only went to DC when they had to operate for the state. All the things that we were protected in our original constitutions, we either have to go back to those, or like Scott said, I really understand what he's saying from a different perspective, and it is all true, because it does all have to be cleaned up, because they've made laws based on corporate law and not based on government structure. And so our government has been operating as a corporation, and the people have been enslaved under the corporation. So when you tell them they've been enslaved, and I said, okay, this is how specific they are. Egypt was enslaved how many years? 400. Pilgrims put a whole different plan in effect. And our Constitution was based on the same Bible that they knew, because it had just been printed in English. They had a plan for 500 years. What was the 400th year? November 2020.
Wow.
We were enslaved for exactly 400 years. And we had a man who was willing to part the sea and walk us out of it. That's why we've shared. How many times have we shared President Trump seeing his back, leading us on the smooth path through the Red Sea, because he's opened it up to us. We've explained all of these things. And to piggyback on what you said on emails, I haven't sent out any shipment, book orders, anything. You guys, we've had so many emails this week of people wanting to commit suicide. And everybody that thought they were operating on faith and they knew what the truth was, we've been saying this, and it's in my books exactly when they started doing this. It's all about the media, and that's everything. It's print, it's radio, it's TV. And Director Casey said in 1981, after Colby set it up after Vietnam, the whole crash of Vietnam, Kennedy wasn't going to put us in Vietnam, but Johnson did. And that was another reason that Kennedy had to be gone, is that he wouldn't allow it. He wouldn't allow us to print money that wasn't based on silver and gold. If you really look at the absolute truth, and they said, all we have to do is give these people disinformation until everything they believe is false. And they had accomplished this by the 90s. Then they took us to the Noahide laws, so we didn't even operate based on the 10 commandments. That's why they couldn't be in the courthouses. And then the challenge was, we'll put Baphomet in if you want to put it in your Capitol building. We can't put the 10 commandments in the Capitol building where the laws are, when the laws are based on the Bible. So we have a president that walks out to the church that they tried to destroy and holds up his Bible, and he said, this is our law. He made his statement that night in the decree. And I think if you look back, I don't know all the wording on the executive order that he did on November 2nd. I didn't even know about it till after the election. But he did an executive order on November 2nd. And I believe that's the one that would match up with 100. I haven't added up the 120 days either. But it's already confirmed that he is our president. There's already been conversation about the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, et cetera. They've already been communicating with people specifically in the states. But look at how far we had to go to find out who all the traitors were.
Oh my
And I don't
God.
know if you have that quote handy, but U.S. Ulysses S. Grant was our last Republic president. And what was his quote?
I do not
We
have.
have two parties. We have traitors and
Yes.
patriots.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it wasn't just, I'm not just hearing from people, and I love you guys who have been writing in, and I feel terrible because, you know, I grew up, the only people who would think about suicide are people who are insane and don't have a solid mind. Well, guys, when all this, the agents have been after me for 30 years and won't let me have a life after they kept changing my ID and put me into all these things because I brought the truth forward about the courts and the judges and everything in San Diego. And you reach a point, and I added up my life insurance, my equity in my house, my car was paid off, I had a lot of assets, I was ready to do it. And God said, no, I have a bigger plan for you. I went on a 10-day trip, I came back to an empty house, and I go, what bigger plan do you have for me? Do you know what I mean? They took everything, and everything has been fraudulent, everything's been against the law. And when people say, and this happened, people were upset about the Wednesday night interview, why did it come into so much that God has allowed these things? God doesn't allow horrible things to happen in your life. Things happen. Who are we in the midst of it?
That's right.
And even though I had my whole suicide plan planned out, God gave me a 10-day trip. I hadn't been anywhere in the 30 years prior. He gave me a 10-day trip. I come home to an empty house. I'm like, well, so now what are we doing now? But by learning all these things, and that's why I love, there's another thing on your program, Scott, you have Tipping Point. It's a radio, Tipping Point Radio.
Yeah.
Everything I've gone through, good God-fearing Christians kept saying, Sheila, you got to reach a tipping point. You're at the spearhead of all of this stuff. You're at the spearhead of identity theft before it's known or a law. You're at the spearhead before there's penal codes. You're at the spearhead of all of this. And we haven't stood together. We've had to wait until what? The tipping point.
That's so.
So guys, we're at the tipping point.
So true. We are at the tipping point. I wanted to also ask you, Scott, in regards to the inauguration, isn't it funny that we're now hearing that, for instance, Spain heard about this or saw the inauguration 10 hours prior than when it ever even happened?
Yeah, pretty amazing. And in answering that, I'll say, Sheila, I'm totally honored by that war you've been waging. Unbelievable that you people like Sherry Tenpenny, same thing, waging this war for decades and taking that kind of fire from these criminals that can do anything to your life they want. Obviously, there's a very big point that's going to be made here when we finally get control of the world. Yeah, I mean, I heard Charlie Ward say that. I wasn't on. He just was on a show. I think probably a couple days before that. Yes, a couple days before that. So I think I heard it after the fact. But once again, it's here. You know, here's how the deep state plays. You know, they just, of course, they recorded that ahead of time, right? They recorded that whole inaugural ceremony ahead of time. It's quite evident with what's coming out. The second thing is people have to understand that even though they're fully aware that the military is sworn to the Constitution of the Republic as we understand. That's why you saw those soldiers in the Capitol Rotunda taking their oath, right? They weren't taking their oath to a faux president. They're taking their oath to the Republic, the Constitution of the Republic. So in 1999, when we had that 18-day period after the second bankruptcy and Russell J. Gold captured the Title IV flag and saved us from reverting back to the Crown's rule, Clinton was notified overseas about it. He was on an overseas trip, right? And so, you know, the U.S. Navy, I think, was the first branch that signed up on with him for that because they couldn't move it. They were sitting in ports around the world with no country. So he registered the flag with the UN when he showed them the documentation. There is land. They said there's no land. Yes, there is. And he showed them. There's the United States of American land. Boom. What'd they do? They certified the flag as representing the U.S. These criminals just continued on. They didn't stop. They went ahead and had a 2000 election with the criminal Bush, the war criminal, who I worked both elections for, mind you, both of them. And so, and they just continued on right up until Trump. They just continued on. It doesn't matter what, you know, I say all their laws are written not to deliver justice. They're written to hamstring us because they will never follow any laws, even the ones they make. And that Sheila's seen that firsthand. So, having said that, you look at what they're doing right now. You look at this whole charade, and that's all it is, a charade. They're like, we're just going to do what we always do. This is what they've always done. That's why I tell people when people say, I saw this, so-and-so still alive, I saw them. Where did you see them? Where did you see them? Well, I saw them on TV. No, where did you see them? I know you saw them did you see them? Because they do exactly what they did with this Oval Office setup. Not just in this case, it's what they have always done. And they're just going to continue doing what criminals are always going to be criminals, right?
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people now are having question about when General Michael Flynn mentioned the 30 days, and he mentioned that at the end of December. So, Sheila, what do you get out of the 30 days? And then we'll go to Scott.
Okay, the 30 days is not just from December to January. The mission the guys are on. Remember, this goes back to the key thing that people missed when Esper was out and Miller came in. What did he say? All of the civilian, including the special forces, and I know guys here that we've mentioned this before. The guy that gave me the Heroes coin back in 2016, he's a special forces guy. Well, they're retired, but they all knew about all of this, and they all said, we want to come back and we'll be available when you want us. And that's the civilian special forces. So now when the letter came out that the civilian government is going to be available in March, it's that the civilian special forces are on mission. And I just spoke to them this morning preparing for this, is that they're on mission until March. They're not planning on anything. It was going to be 7/24 until the 24th of January. Then it was going to be till the 31st of January. Right. Because they've accomplished so much, because they would rather have all of this done before. They don't care how long it takes. I mean, it's tearful for me to realize that these guys are so willing to stand the course, to sleep in the garage of the Senate is what they gave them after they pulled their cars out and left all their carbon dioxide in the, I mean, these guys are just, where we're at. But do you know why those guys are still in the Capitol? That's the mission.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, I don't know if you have the overview of the owl. I sent you the overview of the owl shape. That's why the Capitol is so important. This is the center of their worship. They've already capped off all the tunnels underneath the Capitol. Nobody can escape out of the Capitol. When they did the virtual and the videotaping and everything, if you think those are the real people, and people have already shown videos and pictures and everything that these are just, they're actors.
Sure. Absolutely.
And we got a real message, and there was a whole list of things. 10th Mountain is there. The last one was Castle Rock. What did Steve Mnuchin do? He was with Warner Brothers division out in Hollywood, and I know that division is called Castle Rock. And when you look at the pictures, they're all coming out on the media now, and people are shipping them all over and saying that he's citing all these things and all this stuff is happening. Have you ever seen a picture of the Oval Office where there's a BMW parked in a parking lot, or a parking space that's right behind it? That's a studio. That's a lot. And I can share these things because of all the TV work and film work I've done, is that's what you're seeing a movie. And how many times did they say keep popping the popcorn? And yet when Wednesday happened, all these people wanted to commit suicide. And it's like, we aren't participating in the battle. And they're not at your house. They're not doing this to you. This entire thing, and I don't know if we expand it, if it can show the tunnels go all the way out to their residences where they live. But anyway, when you see from the Capitol, that's the main owl. And then it's almost like the wings come out from the side, and there's tunnels everywhere. And so it's taken a long time to get the kids out. We couldn't get the kids out until we get to this point where we have all the military there. So now that the kids are out and cleaned out, then they were true. They say we've made a base down below, and when they come, I mean, this whole thing has been so genius. It's been so brilliant. The timing has been so perfect. So anybody that thinks that, and when they say the Patriots are in control, it doesn't mean that we have to go and do that, but we have to do what we can do in our communities. So
Exactly.
the owl picture shows you why they put the fencing up, and the fencing is in the same design because they had to fully and completely secure it, but not just above ground, they had to secure it below ground because all of those tunnels underneath allowed exit. So it allowed access to people who don't come through Capitol security to get in and to do things that they wanted to do, and it allowed people to get out and go the other places they wanted to go to. So we're in powerful stead. We're in powerful stead right now, and just understand, you know, people are getting nervous. The Pentagon isn't answering any calls. These departments aren't responding to any of this. But right now, we just need to do what we can do to help educate people and not get angry with people, because how many times have people told you something and you couldn't believe it yet because you didn't have the understanding for it?
Oh, so
You have to get some knowledge about it and then take time to gain understanding. And until you couple those together, we've talked about this before, you don't have any wisdom.
right.
So,
Right. Absolutely. So true. Again, who are we relying on? Okay. God appointed and anointed Donald J. Trump, and God knows what he's doing. So we need to trust that. So now for you, Scott, again, the 30 days, I'm hearing a lot of things in regards to the 30 days, that perhaps the 30 days encompasses all these executive orders that Biden is doing, that in order to enforce an executive order, it takes about 30 days. What are you hearing on that?
I saw some stuff come at me today that I just didn't have time to look it over, except glance at it. But if I had any thin viewpoint on done in 30, again, we've seen it years ago, done in 30. Maybe done in 30 is that once the corporation is actually and absolutely dissolved, maybe it's 30 days before they take whatever action, which would be get control of the ship, which would be an announced inauguration, which would be whatever, the restoration in the minds of the people. I don't, that's just my best guess. All I can see, and it's pretty interesting information, Sheila, that they put those gates up in the regions where they had to have access to controlling the tunnel system. People were wondering, why is there another 26,000 troops on their way to DC?
Right.
Washington, DC is foreign territory. People, you and I know this. Nobody in the country to speak of knows that Washington, DC is not part of the United States. It's sovereign territory, its own state, just like the Vatican, just like the city of London, inside London, same thing. We captured enemy territory, and we have troops there guarding enemy territory, keeping the enemies inside the prison that they're in, and then keeping any other attacks possible against the United States to regain that territory. That's why you're seeing Minuteman missiles staged in different parts of the country outside of DC, in Kentucky, in Virginia, Tennessee. You're seeing Patriot 2 missile batteries in different places, including Las Vegas, out at Red Rock. A friend of mine out there, Adam, sends me information on what he's seeing out there. This is defending the fort while they have captured enemy territory. So that's why these things can't make sense to people until they get beyond the dangerous situation, which apparently we did have on election day. Apparently the plan, and I've heard this from a couple of sources, was to take them all right there, okay, on that particular day. And maybe that's whenever they were filming it. But then again, they had the threat of a detonation. And I do remember military intelligence said they will not make the moves that they need to make without first ensuring or guaranteeing the safety of the people. So everybody flipping out because it didn't happen on that day. As I said, they need to calm down. And what I'm really stunned by, I find astonishing and absolutely disheartening and shocking, is the amount of patriots that folded so quickly and started attacking other patriots.
Right.
The amount of Christians, and these are the ones I beat up on as hard as anybody else, the Christians that folded right away. And I'm like, see, people say I lost faith. And I tell them, you never had faith. You only had hope. Faith doesn't retreat. You think God is going to allow the Luciferian order to get final and ultimate control of humanity right here and right now? This is where their final move. You truly think, as you quoted the Bible your whole life when it was a convenient situation, but right now you're going to say, now that it's time to prove your faith, you're going to say, oh no, we lost. You lied to us. You misled us. You calmed everybody down so 100 million patriots would stand down. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
They want the patriots to come forward. The Satanists want death and destruction. That's what Lucifer feeds off of. Human misery, people slaughtering each other. They would have loved those 100 million patriots to come out and start shooting. You got to use common sense here and use your head. There's two types of people I see. There are protectors and there are defenders. The patriots have already been ready. No matter what happened here, they're ready. We didn't suppress any patriots. Patriots are always ready. The protectors are always ready. The defenders are the ones who are forced into action when it's at their doorstep. Those people are defenders because they're just waiting until it comes to them. The patriots are always ready to take it to them. So I hope this is a big wake-up call for the patriots, because I've watched patriots fold like this. I'm like, man, what would you do with a gun?
Exactly.
I'm not sure I'd want you in my foxhole.
Right. Exactly.
I believe in our creator and I believe in Donald Trump until the end. If they lined him up against the wall, I'd say, step aside. I'm going first, or I'm going to stand in front of him. Then you can take him after me. But that's my commitment.
Amen, Scott. That's so powerful. And you're so right. I mean, so many have folded because they've been going by what they see, that they're hearing things, they're in hope, as you said, so everything looks like it's falling into place. But then when what they see isn't falling into place, they all fall back. That's not how faith works, guys. It's not at all. And throughout his whole presidency, there's been code after code after code for those that have their eyes and ears wide open. So where have you been? Have you done your due diligence? That's what I'm saying. So many people have not done their due diligence. When you hear things on our broadcast, when you hear it on Scott's, start digging yourself. Find the information yourself so that you can clarify in your own heart that, wow, this is true. But my gosh, guys, wake, it's more than pass to wake up. It's what is that, Patrick Henry? Liberty, give me liberty or give me death. That's where we're at here. We have to fight for our liberties. Those military personnel have fought for us. We need to fight for them. Okay. We need to fight for righteousness here. So with all the codes that have been going on, Scott, and I know that you only have a couple more minutes here before you head off to your other broadcast that you're doing today. With Rosie O'Donnell. How cool is that? Woohoo, guys, you got to catch that one. So farewell departure message from President Trump, what actually blew out the media. I mean, I can't remember how many viewed his in comparison to the inaugural with Biden. But anyway, who knows if that's even Biden. But anyway, okay, so we have here the messages. He mentioned miracle. He mentioned Roseanne Barr. Yeah, that's where it was. It wasn't Rosie. She's the whack job. Sorry about that. I'm glad my brother here, he's sneaking off to the side here saying, no, it's not her. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah. Okay, so anyway, farewell, miracles he mentioned, and you'll see me in another form, soon in another form. That's a boom, boom, boom to me. Okay. So what do you say about that, Scott?
Well, there were boom, boom, booms. Beyond that, there was a 21 gun salute. When do you do a 21 gun salute?
Come on.
when you're recognizing a new commander in chief. Right. You didn't get that at the other event, did you?
No, you did not.
You look at that. And when he says, look, I'll be seeing you real soon. And this is just the beginning. Of course it is. These are all little codes to help us understand. This guy from what I heard, he was secretly sworn in by the military for the new commander-in-chief of the New Republic. Of course, he's stepping aside. Who knows? I got something from Monkey this morning that TFR was gone from the flight to Florida. when they were taking him back. So he may not even be there. He may be aboard Air Force One right now, because Air Force One, whether it belongs to the corporation or the country, I don't know. Because the point is, if you seize control of enemy territory, you seize control of all their assets. And the U.S. corporation is a satanic Luciferian structure, which means they've committed crimes against humanity, which means they seize all their assets. So they take Air Force One from them for the New Republic and put it in its service. But to me, the 21 gun salute was as telltale as it possibly can get.
That was
all those clues are there.
Right. I mean, look at Biden. He didn't even have a 21 gun salute at all. And it was in a cemetery.
It's a graveyard. Right.
Right. I mean, was that like so prophetic? That's like, to me,
Yeah.
the death of, the corporation, the death of all their cabal crack, demonic crap, So I'm like, oh, this is like so phenomenal. And then miracles, and the best is yet to come, my gosh, they keep on saying it. There was, Don Jr. and Kimberly, they were celebrating the best is yet to come. They have not dropped us, guys. They have not. You cannot give the enemy your battle plan, right, Dave?
Yeah, I have a question for Scott real quick. Any idea why he didn't pardon Julian Assange?
Oh, good question.
Maybe that is held, and this might be an example. Maybe that those charges are held inside a structure of an illegal or now dead corporation. My guess is. And besides, if the judicial system can't perform its function, which we know it's been proven now, the legislative branch of government cannot perform its function, which is why they took this clear to the very end to show the country and the world they're so corrupt they can't perform their function. Then why give honor to it by asking for Julian Assange's pardon when they may not have the power to imprison him anyways? I think there's another lesson coming there in that, very possibly. There's a couple pardons that I can't tell you the names, but other people ask, why would they pardon this guy? Like maybe a rapper, some of these people from Def Jam Records, maybe they were inside the cabal, but they possibly, just a wild guess. Why? Because maybe they were going to spill the beans on this Luciferian order, and the cabal went after him. What do? They lock you up in prison, they kill you, or they lock you up in prison on bullshit charges. Right. That's what they do. And they have their judges stacked everywhere, and there's no way to fight. There's no way to fight.
True.
Those who have the guns control the situation. All right. Who runs the country? A bunch of bureaucrats in DC? No. Whoever has the guns, the military, period. Even if it's not legislative or judicial, the military has the guns. I don't care what country it is. Whoever controls the guns controls the country, right? The military is the ultimate. The only reason the military doesn't take control like a junta would or any dictatorship, because the military is loyal to the idea of a republic. Amen. They could easily say, you know what, guys? You guys screwed it all up. We're taking the whole thing over. You civilians have proven that you cannot handle a constitutional republic. Therefore, we're going to run it ourselves, which will lead to the same end as where we are now. We just now need a constitutional republic that has the honor and respect of everybody that participates in it, because people don't understand that law only works if everybody says they're going to hold themselves to a land of laws, not the land of men or women. It has to be agreed across the spectrum by everybody. It's the only way it works. Anyways, that's a little bit of a soapbox there, but
isn't Julian Assange an Australian? Isn't his citizenship Australia? So why would they be concerned that the president didn't provide a pardon to someone who's not an American citizen? That was a quandary for me, and they didn't allow extradition to America. Mm-hmm. So he's not in America, and he's not an American citizen. So I thought that was related to it.
Wow, that's a good point, Sheila. Well, I know that, hey, Scott, you got to head off in a couple minutes here. Real quick, a lot of people don't understand the 17 flags that were at the departure of President Trump. And then after that, if you would go ahead and just for people who don't know, where to contact you and your sites, if you would mention them as well before you head off.
Yeah, the 17 flags, as we know, is the 17th letter of the alphabet. which is signifying once again, folks, this is our operation. It's like one more on the way out the door. In my opinion, that was Trump saying, Patriots, hold the line.
Yes.
Hold the line.
Hello again, Patriots. I just wanted to thank you so, so much for all of your support that you've given my channel. It really touches my heart and it's greatly appreciated. And I hope you're enjoying these videos. I hope that you're learning more about the truth and about what is really going on in the Great Awakening. And keep up the good fight. And thanks again.